Hi there. My name is Courtney Pelfrey, and I am the Assistant Director of Downtown Career Services. So that means that I work for Career Services on main campus, but typically when we're in person, my office is on the second floor of Union West, which is right across the street from DPAC. So if you come up the elevator, you'll have the gym on your left and the Student Success offices around the corner to your right. So if you ever need me on campus, that is where I am. Right now, I'm still working primarily remotely, so you can always get me via email. And my email is my first dot my last name at ucf.edu. So courtney.pelfrey@ucf.edu. And I'll make sure that you all have access to that later on too, so that if you need to reach out for any reason, you have that information. But I'm going to go through today the questions that you all submitted, which was very helpful, and they were great questions. So I want to just take those one by one and provide some information and some resources, but I know that there may be follow-up questions as well. And so please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to meet with many of you one-on-one if that's something that you're interested in doing, and I'll tell you how to make an appointment after I answer the questions. So let's start with the first question. The question is, what does a strong resume look like, and where can you find a good resume template? So I am actually going to pull up a sample resume that I have collaborated in creating, and this resume is something that I want to make available to all of you as well, so I can make sure that this is attached so that you have access to it, and you can use this PDF to help you work on your own resume. So I am going to share my screen so that you can see a copy of the resume. So what you should see now on your screen is a sample resume. And I'm not going to go through this section by section and line by line right now, just in the interest of time, but a couple of things I want you to notice about what we would consider to be a strong resume. So one thing you'll notice is that the formatting is really clean and pretty simple. There are no frills here. It's black and white. There are no pictures. There are no graphics. There aren't a lot of lines and bubbles and things like that. So employers really prefer that you keep your resumes clean and simple. Plain text, we really don't want to get much smaller than about a 10 or 11 size font, but you'll see that there's a pretty good ratio of white space to text, which makes it much easier to read. And my formatting is really consistent, which you'll notice as you scroll through. I've been really intentional about the ways in which I'm using bold text, italic text, underlined, all caps, things like that. So you'll want to start with a strong heading. You'll notice the information I have up there, including a personalized URL to your LinkedIn profile if you have one. You'll notice that my education section is first because that's something that you're currently pursuing right now as a student. That's really important. And we typically want to find the most important information near the top. So after our education, that's where we're going to get into our experience. And our experience sections are going to take up the bulk of our resume. You don't have to use the section headers that we've chosen here for this sample. You may want something as simple as a relevant experience section and an additional experience section, which allows you to tailor the content in each of those sections to the employers that you're using your resume to impress. So that being said, you will want to make sure you are using a different version of your resume every time you submit it. An employer should feel like each resume you're submitting is a direct response to a job description or a post that they've put up. And so really make sure that you're using strategic, targeted words and phrases right out of a job description to showcase the fact that you do in fact have those transferable skills that they're looking for. Bullet points should be specific and contextual. Think about it from the point of view of the reader. Have you given them enough information in each bullet point to know what skills you bring to the table and the impact you've had on your current organizations? Sometimes we write bullet points and they're just actions that we've done. You know, if I've been a waiter, I serve guests at their table, or I bring them their food, or I, complete their transactions. Those are actions that I've taken, but what are the impact of those actions on the restaurant that I work for? What type of, guest experience am I creating? If I've worked with money, how much money? If I've put on programs, how many? What type? What skills have I used to do those things? Is it strong communication skills, leadership skills, critical thinking, problem solving? Really be detailed about what you're trying to showcase to an employer. So again, I'm not going to go through this entire resume line by line, but I will provide it so that all of you have it as a resource as well. So let's go to the next question on our list. The question is, in the public sector where budgets are set and often restrained, How would you suggest navigating asking for a raise or a merit increase or a market increase, et cetera? So, thinking about negotiating a raise for yourself based on merit, performance, that sort of thing. And I'm going to even broaden this a little bit, but negotiating salary in general. The first thing that you really need to be aware of is sort of a market value for the position that you're either applying for or that you're serving in. So for example, the role that I'm in career services, I would need to do some research on what are other folks in similar positions making. I can use tools like Glassdoor and LinkedIn to do that well, but it's understanding, in my role, what is the value that I bring? How much am I worth? So you sort of have to go through the steps of saying, if the median salary in my role is $100,000, we're just going to use that. It's an easy number. It's not. But if the median, salary for my role is $100,000, well, do I perform on par with that median? Maybe I haven't been in the role very long. I have kind of the typical widely accepted skills, but nothing more. Or do I have additional degrees? Do I have skills that go sort of above and beyond the main job requirements? And so you have to start to think for yourself. That's where kind of merit and performance raises come in. Have I, in the past year, gone way above and beyond my job responsibilities? So you'll need to actually look at your job title, your job listing. You should have a document once you're hired that says, these are the duties of my job. And how much are you going above and beyond that? Have you been asked to take on a bunch of new projects? Are you being asked to fill in for somebody who's on leave? Think about those things when you're thinking about whether or not you can, actually negotiate up in salary or to ask for a raise. The other thing to know about asking these tough questions is if you don't ask, the answer is always no. The worst that somebody can say is no, we don't have the budget for this at that time. But if you go in with a strong and compelling argument and confidence, a lot of it is confidence that you are worth XYZ amount of money. If you can go in and sound confident and knowledgeable, that is going to be impressive. And even if they can't offer you what you're asking for at that time, my experience has shown me that will still benefit you in the long run, as then maybe you're being considered for promotions and things down the line. So you just want to go in with a clear and compelling argument. You want to ask for a specific amount in a raise. Sometimes that's a percentage, sometimes that's an actual dollar amount, but you need to have something to base it on, and you need to be confident that your skills equip you to kind of move into maybe that higher salary range. So let's move on to our next question then. What does a good cover letter include? I'm going to share my screen again so that you can see maybe a place where you could find some more information about cover letters. And one of the best places to go, really, career development information you need is going to be the Career Services website. And so right now I have our website up on the cover letter page, and you can see here we do offer a sample cover letter if you click here, but I just want to go briefly through kind of the main components of a strong cover letter. The first thing is formatting. You want to use a traditional formal business letter format. And that can include the exact same heading that you've used on your resume. So you can use those two headings interchangeably. You can even use that heading on a reference sheet as well, but it sort of gives you this look of like a branded stationery. Everything's consistent and clean. So you can use that heading, and then you'll want to make sure that you're including a date, left justified, a full name and address of who you're writing to, left justified, followed by a greeting, and then the body of your letter. A couple of interesting things about cover letters when you're writing, dear so-and-so, and you always want to try and actually identify a person instead of using to whom it may concern, even if that means you have to call the company and say, who can I address my cover letter to? But when you write that greeting, dear Courtney Pelfrey, instead of putting a comma the way you might think and feel would be appropriate, it's actually a colon on a cover letter. So dear Courtney Pelfrey, colon. And then you're going to use this information here to help write the body of your letter. The first paragraph would be your introduction. Who are you? How did you find out about this position? And what do we need to know, sort of a thesis statement about why you're qualified? Why are you applying to our company? What background research have you done to show that maybe you align with our values, our mission, what our goals are? If you're applying for internships, for example, you've got, thousands of internship opportunities that you could apply for. Why have you selected this one to apply for? What resonates with you about the position or about the company? Then the body of your your cover letter, the middle paragraph will be your longest paragraph probably. That's where you're actually giving some examples. You're elaborating on the skills that you've given them in the first paragraph, and you're focusing on, here's how I can be an asset to your organization. You're taking things from your resume and elaborating on them. A cover letter gives you a chance to be more conversational, a little bit more personal, and less sort of, bullet point, here's what I did, bullet point, here's what I did. Instead, it allows you to do a little bit more storytelling, which is great when you're trying to describe some transferable skills. And then your conclusion, certainly thank them for their time. Let them know again that you're excited and you're interested in speaking with them more about your qualifications. But you want all of this to fit on one page. It should just be a one-page document. Same thing with your resume, just a one-page document. And sometimes you'll notice when you're applying online, some applicant software only allows you to submit one document. So what you can do is you can save your cover letter first, followed by your resume, and then a reference sheet all in one PDF together so that you can upload just that one document. Just make sure when you're doing that you name it something that's easy to understand. So I might say Courtney Pelfrey, UCF application materials. It's very clear who I am, what I'm submitting. Sometimes you just see, initials followed by the word resume and then a bunch of numbers. That might get tricky if an organization is reviewing hundreds of resumes for a position. All right. The next question on the list is, should I call towns or cities for internships if I don't see any postings? Yes, absolutely. Don't feel like you are limited to only things that you're finding online. So, the typical places to search for a job or an internship, I feel like, people know about Indeed and Monster. Those are great. Make sure you're using LinkedIn as well. And if I could recommend a starting place for everyone at UCF, it would be using Handshake. The reason for that is we actually take the time, our team vets every single employer who is posting in Handshake. We approve them to have that capability to make sure that you're not getting spammed. The other thing is a lot of employers reach out to us specifically to recruit with us in Handshake because they are looking for UCF talent. So many of the employers who are posting in Handshake, they are already seeking you out, which is sort of above and beyond what you're going to find on sites like Indeed and Monster and even LinkedIn, because those positions are sometimes getting hundreds, if not thousands of resumes for just one position. And so certainly I want you to stand out and be as competitive as you can. So that being said, reach out to people in addition to just applying to things. I think that used to work, and maybe in our parents' or grandparents' generation, you could apply to something and hope that you'd get a call back no matter what. But now you really have to make yourself stand out in other ways. And one of the best ways to actually be considered for a job or an internship is to have already made a connection within the organization, even prior to submitting your application. So there are a couple of really unique ways to do that. One way that I really like to build networking connections and reach out to folks to ask if they have, any openings is using the alumni feature in LinkedIn. And so that's actually something that I'm going to pull up so I can show you as well. A lot of people, don't know that this even exists in LinkedIn. So I just want to show you really quickly what I'm talking about. So this is the sort of homepage in LinkedIn. So my news feed, so to speak, if you aren't active on LinkedIn. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for the University of Central Florida. And if this isn't a page you're already following in LinkedIn, it would be a great idea to follow them, just so you can kind of keep up to date with what your alma mater is doing. But here you'll see that there is an alumni button in the middle of the screen. And this is actually a database of 241 plus thousand alumni. And so this is a database, that is robust and ever changing, because it's all based on what alumni are updating in their LinkedIn profile real time. So, I can search these alumni by city they live in, company they work for. I can look at what they do within the company or what they studied. And then I can even look at what they're skilled at or how I'm connected to them via colleagues and peers. So if there's a company that you're really interested in working for, let's just use City of Orlando as an example. I can type in the city of Orlando, and I'm going to see that 9,200 alumni, for some reason have city of Orlando on their profile. It may be because they have mentioned it in an article that they've written. It could be because they've worked or interned there. I'm going to come over here to where they work, and I'm going to see that 256 of those people are listing city of Orlando as either a current or previous employer. So now I'm going to scroll down and I want to see what some of these folks are doing. And you'll notice that it will show me a lot of great information. It will show me what their role is with the city of Orlando. It'll show me what they studied and the year that they graduated, and if I have any mutual connections. This is the best way to start reaching out to people who are doing things that you're interested in doing. We call this informational interviewing, and you can reach out to folks and say, I found you using the LinkedIn alumni feature. This is who I am. This is what I'm studying. I'd love to connect with you to learn a little bit more about what it is you do and, how I might make myself a stronger candidate to do something similar in the future. So it's less pressure because, one, you already have something in common with these folks. You're all UCF, you have a UCF connection, but also you're not asking them for a job right off the bat. You're just saying, can I learn about your role from you, who's, somebody who's doing it or has done it in the past, and just have a list of questions ready. So you can ask by connecting with them on LinkedIn here, or you can Google their name and their organization, their title, to see if you can find a working business address. Oftentimes people check their work email more than they check their LinkedIn messages, but it never hurts to try either method, and just make sure you're connecting with lots of different folks in the field of your choice, because that's how you're going to be making network connections. Then if I want to come back and apply for a job with the city of Orlando, and I've already connected with, Heather here, I can send Heather an email and say, I loved our conversation a few weeks ago. I'm really excited because I'm getting ready to apply to XYZ position. And I wondered if you could recommend somebody specifically that I could send my resume to. Heather may know specifically who's in charge of that position, who the hiring manager is, or maybe willing to refer you directly based on a conversation that you've already had. So the more you can get your name kind of in the pool of candidates before there's even a pool of candidates, that's really going to be to your advantage. But yes, the long story short is that if you don't see positions that you're interested in, but you have companies that you're interested in working for, or organizations, don't hesitate to reach out to someone, make that network connection early, learn about the role, learn about the opportunities, ask them what you can do to be a stronger candidate, a more qualified candidate, and then make sure to capitalize on those relationships later. Stay connected on LinkedIn, send them an email thanking them for their time, ask if you can send a copy of your resume, things like that. So that goes really well into our next question, which is, what would be your recommendation to stay in continuous contact with networks if you don't have a specific reason to reach out? So LinkedIn is going to be the best way that you can do this. And it's really just building up that network first, reaching out and doing as many informational interviews as possible, because it's really going to show that you are invested in your job search or your internship search. Employers are going to be very impressed if you're taking the time to reach out personally, introduce yourself, get to know them, learn more about the organization. That is going to set you so far apart from other candidates who just aren't taking the time to do that. And so that I would highly encourage you to do, and make sure that you are making even a part of your routine. Every week, maybe say, I'm going to reach out to 5 new people this week in an industry that I'm interested in, or, working for organizations that I'm interested in. And then connect with them on LinkedIn. Make sure your LinkedIn profile looks good before you do that, so that they have something to look at when they connect with you. And make sure then that you are occasionally posting on LinkedIn. Maybe it's just an update about how your courses are going. Maybe it's resharing an article that you found to be really interesting. Maybe it's joining professional organizations and groups on LinkedIn. There are kind of passive ways to stay, in contact with people. It doesn't have to be, a monthly check-in on what you're doing and how things are going. But, when you do receive your first job offers, going back to those people who mentored you or who provided informational interviews, even if they're in different companies, it's really, I think, beneficial to circle back and say, thank you so much for your time. Without our conversation, I don't know that I would have known this, or I don't know that I would have gotten these job offers. So, it can be passive. It doesn't have to be kind of a continuous, aggressive sort of networking, but just making sure that you're staying in touch with people here and there and staying connected on LinkedIn as you're able. So the last question I have is, how can I overcome resume screening HR software that denies my resume before someone even has a chance to look at it? That's an awesome question. So applicant tracking systems or applicant tracking software, ATS, is typically what we call that. And so those are, companies will sometimes use software to review resumes and then pull out, based on a set of criteria, who is going to get reviewed by an actual person, maybe someone in talent acquisition or HR, and which resumes are not going to move on. The best way that you can play to your strengths and to what the employer is looking for is to be very tailored to a job description. And I mentioned that before, but I cannot, overstate how important it is not to submit the same resume to 100 different places when you're applying for jobs or internships, because that is very obvious to an employer. I can promise you, as somebody who reads hundreds of resumes a month, it is very obvious when it's just your kind of generic resume, or when you have really put in the time and effort to tailor every bullet point to what the employer is looking for. So you can use words and phrases specifically from a job description. That is not plagiarism. That will help you get through an applicant tracking system, because an applicant tracking system has been designed to say which resumes are going to be the best fit for what we've posted in our job description. And so again, that is going to be a huge piece of the puzzle, making sure that you don't have too much formatting going on. You don't have pictures, you don't have graphics, because those things will really kind of junk up an applicant tracking system. But making sure that you that you have your education listed, that you have your degree listed, that you have experience sections where they can easily pull, again, those words and phrases that they've been looking for. And this is something that I'm more than happy to help you with. We offer career services. We offer lots of different resume workshops throughout the year. Some are even hosted by employers, which are great, because then you get to hear that sort of behind the scenes HR perspective. But I'm also happy to review resumes with you one-on-one. You can always make an appointment with me by logging into Handshake, which is our own system for managing jobs, internships, employers, events, that kind of thing. But my calendar is in Handshake. So when you log into Handshake using your UCF credentials, you'll click on Career Center at the top, and then that will help you navigate to my calendar, and you'll be able to see our mutual availability and get on my calendar that way for a resume review. But also, there are other types of appointments. Maybe you just want to talk through a job or an internship search. Maybe you want to do a mock interview. We've got some really cool tools for mock interviews that I'd love to share with you. And I have a colleague who also works downtown, and she is able to help you. Let's say, you're listening to this and you're seeing that sample resume and you think, well, I don't have quite the experience that I think I need to be competitive. My colleague Dina actually will sit down with you and help you to design a plan for getting more involved in various things. Maybe it's student organizations like this one. Maybe it's finding an internship, a study abroad program, undergraduate research, but it's finding things to build that experience and build those skills, because we want you to be marketable to employers. And one of the best ways to do that is to find ways to build the skills that they're looking for. And I can tell you the most transferable skills that employers are looking for across industry include leadership, communication, both written and oral, critical thinking, problem solving, global fluency, so the ability to understand other cultures and diverse perspectives, and things like that. So those strong transferable skills, that's again what we want to be writing into our bullet points, showcasing in our cover letters, highlighting in our interviewing skills and on our LinkedIn profiles. And a lot of that is confidence. You're already building those things, but you have to be confident that you're building those things and understand that you don't have to get them only from paid experiences. Things that are unpaid can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, if you're getting, great transferable skills and experience. So I will leave you with that today. I know that was a ton of information in a relatively short amount of time. But again, my email is courtney.pelfrey@ucf.edu. Please do not hesitate to reach out. We've got a lot of great materials that we'd like to share with you. Like I mentioned, interview prep, the sample resume. Our website is full of additional tools and resources. So take advantage of that, and let's connect going forward so that you can let me know how I can support you from here on out. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening and a great weekend.